And I'm Camryn Bowden. We begin tonight's broadcast in Florida. Former President and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump was again targeted in an attempted assassination plot, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Trump, who was golfing at his course in Florida, is safe and unharmed. The alleged suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Ruth, fled following the incident but is now in police custody. Ruth, who was allegedly equipped with an AK-47-style weapon and a viewfinder, was about 300 to 500 yards away from the former president before being shot at by Secret Service members. Earlier today, President Joe Biden addressed reporters at the White House over the incident.
Thank God the president's okay. I think we got a full report so far. They're down there tonight. But one thing I want to make clear, the service needs more help.
And in a press briefing yesterday, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw shared how the plot on Trump's life was stopped.
The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
At Hofstra University, here's what students had to say. Junior Paul Cerrone said how unexpected this was.
I think it's crazy to live through not only one, but two assassination attempts for the same president. I feel like it's just another unprecedented thing that we're living through after COVID and after tons of different, political affairs that are happening. It's just like another thing to add to the list and I think that speaks to how crazy the political climate is.
And Junior Vince Collada said that it has an interesting impact on him.
I sort of think it humanizes assassinations in general, because you hear about JFK and you hear about assassination attempts on realistically any president or world leader. And since it doesn't really necessarily happen, you kind of don't really, think about it in a really modern sense. So it's frightening for sure. It's a very scary thing, and I think, it's very scary.
The alleged shooter appeared in federal court this morning and is charged with possessing a firearm as a convicted felon and possessing a firearm with an erased serial number. After streams of mis- and disinformation coming from the response to Hurricane Helene, local sheriffs in North Carolina have said that the Federal Emergency Management Agency will pause some operations over threats made against its workers. Ashe County Sheriff Phil Howell stated that there has been threats against FEMA employees in the mountain region, and as a result, quote, and out of abundance of caution, they have paused their process as they are assessing the threats. President Joe Biden is visiting regions hit by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton and has called on those spreading misinformation to stop.
Mr. Trump and all those other people know it's a lie to suggest that's all they're going to get. That's bizarre. It's bizarre. They got to stop this. They're being so damn un-American with the way they're talking about this stuff.
FEMA workers had to halt work on Saturday in Rutherford County because of armed militias who were shouting and threatening employees. The presidential candidates are hot on the campaign trail, and with only 1 week left before the election, the candidates are looking to get their final interactions with voters in those key swing states. Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is in Philadelphia today, alongside former President Barack Obama and Pennsylvania native Bruce Springsteen. Former President and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is in Georgia today, first attending a national faith summit and then heading to Georgia Tech. Both vice presidential nominees, Governor Tim Walz and Senator J.D. Vance, are in Wisconsin, making some vital appearances. Polls between Harris and Trump are razor thin, with national polls from the New York Times highlighting only a 1% difference between the candidates. We begin tonight's broadcast on the last day of the campaign trail. This presidential campaign has been historic in every capacity. WRHU-FM has taken you through Donald Trump's felony trials, President Joe Biden stepping down from a second presidential run, and multiple attempted assassinations. And it is finally down to the last day. Today, Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is in Pennsylvania, which some analysts say might be the key to the White House for either candidate. Here she is at a voter canvassing effort in Scranton. Harris is spending the day visiting working-class areas and ending the night in Philadelphia with guests that include Lady Gaga and Oprah Winfrey. Former president and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is spending the last day traveling through 3 different swing states, starting in Raleigh, North Carolina, moving through Pennsylvania, and ending the night in Michigan. Here's Trump at that North Carolina rally earlier today.
This is really the end of a journey, but a new one will be starting, and that's the one we've wanted to partake in, which is basically to make America great again. And now we'll have a chance to do it after today. Hopefully, everything will work out well. We're way leading.
With historic early voting numbers that total 77 million ballots and polls that have Trump and Harris within a point of each other, this election is likely to be one of the closest in modern history. Today marks Indigenous Peoples Day, and the Indigenous Peoples Day NYC Committee is hosting a free event on Randall's Island. The celebration features 24 hours of cultural performances, music, authentic food, spoken word, guest speakers, traditional drum circles, and an evening concert to close out the night. Committee member Chanae Bullock described the event as a beautiful celebration of global Indigenous heritage and resilience, adding that it highlights ongoing struggles shared by Indigenous communities worldwide. Additionally, New York City held its 80th annual Columbus Day Parade today. This parade celebrates Italian-American culture and the accomplishments of the Italian people. The parade included about 35,000 participants, more than 20 marching bands, 18 floats, and about 1 million spectators, as well as closed many Manhattan streets. The outcome of next week's election in 7 New York congressional districts could determine which political party controls the U.S. House for the next 2 years. In the House of Representatives, Republicans currently hold 220 seats and Democrats 212 seats, with 3 vacancies, meaning that if all Democrats vote no, Republicans could lose only 3 of their members' votes if they want to pass a bill. How New Yorkers vote in the 7 districts, 3 on Long Island, 2 in the Hudson Valley, and 2 upstate, will be key to whether Democratic Representative Hakeem Jeffries becomes House Speaker or remains the minority leader.
Oh, say, can you see?
Today marks one of the most tragic days in American history. September 11th commemorates the worst terrorist attack on American soil, where over 2,900 people lost their lives in an act of senseless violence against civilians. Hijackers who took control of 4 different planes crashed into the 2 towers at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania. Today reminds all Americans to never forget. Here at Hofstra, the community remembers the 27 alumni and students who perished on that tragic day in 2001.
Kenneth Caldwell.
Family members of those Hofstra community members who passed on 9/11 joined a small but powerful remembrance ceremony outside of CV Star, adorning a blue and white themed wreath with red roses and the names of those who died. Jules Joyelle, Vice President of the Student Government Association here at Hofstra and the opening speaker for today's events, shared the importance of remembrance on this day.
I think it's important to recognize the communities and the people who were affected, who were born and still affecting them today, and taking this time to remember those events and remember and honor those people really unites the community, and I think that's what is important about remembrance.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Paul Flora, an alum from Hofstra's class of 1968, shared why he believes this tragedy is so important.
Well, for me, and I believe many of the people on campus, it's the remembrance of the most terrible day in our history in America, and all the people that lost their lives for just being in the building.
He also expressed that those who were not alive for the tragedy should educate themselves on this important day.
It should be very important to them, and I would encourage all Hofstra students to go back and read and look at whatever they can to understand what took place on that day and just how significant the amount of loss of life that took place on that day means to the U.S. as a country.
Student Government Association President Lincoln Annabali weighed in on the impacts of today for Hofstra.
As a Hofstra community, and I think every community is strengthened when tragedy strikes, and to have these families attend this event today, it shows you that even though maybe their loved ones are the ones who are directly a part of the Hofstra community, this is still their home here.
And he concluded by expressing how important this ceremony is to be preserved in the future.
It's just an honor to be here and to remember the families, and I hope this is an event that can continue far into the future.
For Newsline, I'm Camryn Bowden, WRHU.
Mindful of the innocent victims whose lives were lost 23 years ago this day, and those who continue to suffer illness, and loss, and pain because of those events, we hold them in the silence of our hearts.